Some of you may be familiar with the poet Mary Oliver. This is a quote from her. "Tell me, what will you do today with your wild and precious life?" Friends, welcome again to our fall board meeting. Many of you have observed that August is not fall. I'm reminding you that we scheduled this meeting for August because there are no Vanderbilt football games, Parents Weekend, or homecoming celebrations, and there are no Titans games or Predators games either. Sadly, hotel rates almost doubled during those times, and Moses, we wanted to be good stewards of the church's money. Hence our fall meeting in August. Since our March meeting, I have given serious thought to this meeting and what our working relationship needs to be in order to be faithful to the work the church has entrusted to us. Just so you know my bias, I sat where you're sitting for 6 years. I missed one meeting in that time. At the beginning of my second quadrennium, a very prominent layperson joined the board. She came to one meeting. She said it was a waste of her time and she never came back. I made a deep sworn vow at that time that if I ever had a chance to change that experience of the GBHEM, I would. Now is my chance. We have all noticed that in the last 8 years, the world has changed. And the biggest change in the last 8 years is that change is accelerating. My hope in bringing Jennifer Holland from BoardSource in to lead us was that she would help us reframe our culture and our functioning to be more of a partnership of board and staff, more of a partnership between CEO and board president. It was clear to me, and I think many of the returning board members, that we needed to change both the culture and functioning of this board. I believe that there is too much wisdom and broad experience in this room to waste your time and the church's money rubber stamping the work of the staff, even excellent work as it is. Y'all are supposed to laugh. There is a diagram that I want to show you that models a shift that I'm hoping we can make. This is from the book Leadership as Governance by Kathy Trower. And I don't know, can you make that bigger? I know I'm getting older, but can you make it a little bigger? So that, there you go, thanks. According to leadership, governance is leadership, there are 3 types of functioning in a board. There is the fiduciary functioning, the strategic functioning, and the generative functioning. I don't believe in the past we have ever gotten to that generative function in the GBHEM. And I think it's important to note that all 3 need to happen in a healthy board setting. We have fiduciary responsibilities. We have strategic planning responsibilities. But we also, in order to take advantage of your wisdom and expertise, need to get to the generative conversation. I believe that we need to have a steady purpose with flexible strategy. A steady purpose with flexible strategy. Bishop Dorff, you and the Personnel Committee are my boss. You manage me and I lead the staff. We work for you as you represent the United Methodist Church. Everyone appointed in the United Methodist Church is under authority, and that's a good thing. The fiduciary reality of our board is given in the Book of Discipline. But in these times of rapid and accelerating change, our board must operate at all three of these levels of functioning. Not all work is generative. Not all work is strategic. Not all work is fiduciary. But here, I believe, is our steady purpose in this time of accelerating change. GBHEM's work is to marshal the educational resources needed for people all over the world to discover, claim, and pursue God's call to ministry through United Methodist Church. This is our piece, our contribution in transforming the world for Christ. For John Wesley, education was a central aspect of salvation. And as much as the world has changed, that hasn't changed. Strategy and pedagogy have changed, but not the desperate need for Christian education. John Wesley and the Methodist movement virtually invented adaptive leadership. Think about it. Adaptive leadership addresses wicked problems. We Methodists birthed the Freedmen's Aid Association, addressing the tragic, brutal human suffering of disease and illiteracy in the aftermath of the Civil War. Meharry Medical College in Nashville and all our historically black colleges and universities are rooted in this heritage of looking around in that time of crushing and desperate human need and saying, somebody has got to do something. The EIIA, the Educational Institution Insurance Association, was formed in the 1960s by this board, when our historically black colleges could not buy insurance from commercial firms from fear that student insurrections made them a bad risk. Somebody had to do something, and that somebody was GBHEM. Africa University was born 20 years ago to address the need for quality education on the continent of Africa. Somebody had to do something, and that was GBHEM. My hope is that you and I, board and staff, will rise to the challenges of our time in equal faithfulness. It is our turn. We need to deal with the big questions together, not the minutia. That's why I invited Don House here, so that you could hear the big questions that relate to our work. My hope is that we can move to a nimble model of governance and leadership that does each of these functions: fiduciary, strategic, and generative in their season. Some challenges cross the boundaries of our traditional boundaries of our committees and divisions. We live in a VUCA world. Volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. The nature and speed of the catalysts of change are different than those of the past. And these 5 things are primary markers of what is called the generative opportunity. Ambiguity. There are multiple interpretations of what's really going on and what requires attention and resolution. 2, saliency. The issue, however you define it, means a great deal to a great many people and important constituencies. The General Conference of the United Methodist Church would be one of those. High stakes. The stakes are high because the discussion does or could invoke questions of organizational identity. We're dealing with high stakes. Strife. The prospects for confusion and conflict, as well as the desire for consensus, are high. So when you have these tensions, you have strife. The other thing that we're facing, I believe, as part of this generative opportunity is irreversibility. The decisions that we make cannot be revised or reversed. We have to commit. Irreversibility. I think this situation describes our current reality. It describes the situation that the General Conference found itself in to call on the GBHEM to implement the Young Clergy Initiative. It's imperative that we ask the right questions. And we have come to believe that while one of the questions is that more young clergy are needed, it's not the only question. The question for young people is this: what will you do with your wild and precious life? Or, what will you do for God with your wild and precious life? What I yearned for as a board member is engagement in the larger questions facing the United Methodist Church in leadership development. The most important questions, what are those that we must address? How do we fulfill our work in sustainable ways? How do we make the United Methodist Church the most desirable place for clergy callings? How do we make the United Methodist Church the most desirable place for clergy callings? How do we incentivize the community for their care? How do we best engage in a robust discussion so the board can respond instead of react? How do we design an agenda that keeps the board on task, spending 90% of our time on important issues? The meeting in the last quadrennium I found the most interesting was the meeting that Bishop Hagia led, focusing on the larger questions facing the church. Thankfully, Bishop Hagia will again help us address and frame our work at this meeting. What if a goal for our board meetings is to elicit better thinking from our board members? What if our board meetings were organized so that complex and often intractable issues are confronted by smart, dedicated people working in a cooperative and analytical, truth-seeking mode? I want and need sense-making from you. I need first guessing upstream rather than second guessing downstream. The idea with framing, after all, is to help ensure making the best diagnosis possible before treatment is applied. That's the rationale behind our Young Clergy Initiative proposal, which you will be hearing more about, and the rationale behind inviting Dr. House and Dr. Ailshire. They help us ask the right questions. In the United Methodist Church, somebody has to do something about clergy supply, about clergy effectiveness, and that somebody is GBHEM. Dan Ailshire will speak to us about seminary issues for the same reasons. He can help us ask the right questions because we in the United Methodist Church, according to Don House and everybody that's paying attention, is saying that in the United Methodist Church, we have to do something now, and we have to do something different. I believe one of our blind spots in the general boards is our failure to seek information beyond ourselves. We typically seek out information at hand and don't seek information that would argue against our pre-existing views. We all suffer from evidence confirmation bias. What we see depends on where we stand. You will learn more about the Dream Team in the Young Clergy Initiative report. Often we assume that the information needed is within the organization. We're not assuming that anymore. The role of the Dream Team is to counter the bias of confirmation. Their role is to bring an outsider's perspective, helping us to think outside our box. I want to also note that we have given our young staff real responsibilities, recognizing that creative people are motivated by autonomy, opportunity to develop mastery and a sense of purpose. I invited Dr. House and Dr. Ailshire, who will speak to us on Friday, to address this board and share their research, because GBHEM needs to be on the cutting edge of the discussion around clergy supply, young clergy, and seminary education. We are called to address the big issues of our day, not inconsequential matters. We are called to address the big issues as we have in the past. The role of the GBHEM is to answer the call of the church through the General Conference to face the challenges of our time, just as we did with Freedmen's Aid, historically black colleges, with the EIIA and Africa University. This is our legacy. This is our purpose, to marshal the educational resources of the United Methodist Church to address the issues of our day. Somebody has to do something. Now it's our turn. Thank you.